Hey, welcome today. It's David Cathers from Gig Harbor, Washington. I'm a realtor here, and each week we provide more informational videos. And as I said, you aren't going to want to miss this one today. So please, if this is your first time, go ahead and subscribe, hit that button, hit that little bell, and let's get us started here. Thank you. One other question now I'm going to throw in, and this may be on a whole different subject, but a lot of times, like when you said condo, you think of condos and HOAs, and you think homeowners, neighborhoods. Probably more so I see condos where they will limit how many people you can have as renters. Like if you buy a house and you say, well, I'm going to keep it, it's our first home, it's a nice neighborhood, and then we're going to go buy our next home and we're going to rent that one out. And is that something you usually find in the HOAs? I know condos, they may say, only so many, 10% of the condos can be rented or something, and there's reasons for that too.
Yes. Great question. So in condos, one of the reasons we see rental caps most often is because of funding, loans. So FHA funding, specifically, they will not fund a loan in any condominium where 50% or more of the homes are rented. And I think the foundation of that rule is just simply that if you have more than 50% of the residents not on site as on-site residents, that potentially you're not going to see the same care of the property. I also think that FHA is smart enough to know that you've reduced your pool of homeowners who might be willing to serve on the board, because typically the board meets right there at the property, and if half of your residents don't even live there, then really probably only half of your residents are even eligible to be on the board or willing to be on the board. It just dilutes a lot of things when you get to these properties. And we have one property that is a HOA, but it has they've never put a rental cap in place. They've never cared about limiting rentals, and I would say they've got about 60, maybe 70% of their units rented. And it makes involvement and board participation, even attendance at the meetings, is just very poor, because it's an investment property and nobody cares. As long as it's making money for them, they don't care too much about what's going on. So the 25% or 30% of residents that live on site, they really have a hard time generating change.
Yeah, we've seen where I tried to help someone get into there was a thing going on 8 years ago or so where they were overbuilding or overbuying condos, or what they were doing is they were taking old apartment buildings and somebody would turn them into condominiums so that they can sell 100 units and make all that profit. And then what happened was a lot of them were becoming buying because they were cheap and they rented. And what we found is some clients that we met, they come to me and say, well, I want to sell, and they couldn't sell the thing because now the Homeowners Association had no control per se, and the banks then said, well, you can't sell it, we won't finance it because there's no strength to that Homeowners Association. So that's kind of what you were.
Yes, and that's a good point, is and a lot of people find themselves intending to live in a property for a long time, and then a job change or something happens, and they're not in a position, maybe they just haven't lived there that long, they don't have equity in it, they don't want to sell it yet.
Somebody passes on.
Or they're in the military and they're being relocated. But ultimately, there's a lot of reasons why they might want to rent it and hang on to it. Maybe they intend to move back, but they just need to go through this life change. So it's always good to ask the board for an exception. Most of the rental caps that we see, it may limit, 10% of the units can be rented unless there's a hardship situation that the board will consider. But boy, yes, we've seen some unfortunate circumstances where the buyer bought it as an investment property and missed the whole part about there's a rental cap and you have to have approval, to rent your unit. Now they own it and they're unhappy. So kind of goes back to the first section we talked about, cc&rs, and making sure that you can abide by them before you buy.
Yeah. Great. Well, I appreciate, is there anything, I've learned a lot, and I hope everybody else has today, but anything else that you can think of that we've geared off, or people can get on? Best way to probably answer the questions is we just tell everybody, call Juanita. She answers the phone 24 hours a day, right?
Pretty much, yeah. I would just say, you know, HOAs they're a different animal, but they're not a bad thing, but sometimes you do need help navigating them. So yes, certainly we're there to help, and just remember it's a community, and it's the neighborhood, and it's the people that community is like family sometimes. So we're talking a lot about rules and money and financials, but at the end of the day, it's where you live, it's your neighborhood, it's your community, and just remember to love everybody.
Yeah, treat them right.
That's right.
Well, thank you.
Thank
Appreciate you taking the time.
Absolutely.
Super.
Thanks for listening.
All right. Hey, that's it for today's video. Thank you again. Don't forget to subscribe and click that little bell so you can be notified, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.